Hey, welcome to the podcast, Royce.
Thank you for having me, Asher.
I feel like you a hard man to track down, but when I look back at it, I was like, maybe I didn't really ask. I thought I asked, and I was like, maybe I was thinking more about asking you on the podcast.
Yeah, I know, man. I remember some years ago, a few years ago,
Hmm.
it's when you were just getting started with the podcast, right? And just trying to figure out, um, I would say, like where you were going with it,
Right, right.
which direction you were going with it. And so it's good to see that you got it up and going and that you got some traction, man. And you are um you're just taking it one step at a time.
Yeah.
One
For
step at a time. So,
for anyone who doesn't know you, who do you say you are?
uh, my Instagram says mental trailblazer.
Hmm.
I'm also a licensed therapist, and I work at the University of Louisville, and I
Hmm.
work in the athletics department and work specifically with student athletes and do
Hmm.
private practice.
Maybe I should try this one on you. Who are you to you?
Who am I to me?
Hmm.
Oh man, I am. Yeah, I would say I'm a trailblazer, man. Yeah. Definitely a trailblazer. I'm just a chill dude, man. Chill guy. A humble person for sure, man. Um, I would also say a compassionate person
Hmm.
and a giving person, man. I always like to see the good in people and try to see the good in situations too.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, man, just a person who always wants to see other people um, develop into their full potential and not let the past dictate their future.
Right. Well, tell me a little bit about your past. How did you grow up? Where were you born? Where'd you come from?
Oh yeah, Lansing, Michigan. Went to Everett High School, man. Same high school of Irving Magic Johnson.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Not many people know that. But yeah, grew up in Lansing, Michigan, man. I got married my senior year in high school.
Mm.
Yeah, that was
Like quick.
different. Different. So I'll say that. I was different. I was different. Got married. She was not pregnant or anything like that.
Hmm.
So got married my senior year in high school, and then 2 years later, we had our first daughter,
Hmm.
and then I entered the military at 20,
Mm.
U.S. Navy, and spent 14 years in the military. Yeah, and in the Navy, I was in San Diego, California,
Hmm.
16 years in San Diego. And then from there, man, I got out in 2011 and went to school.
Hmm.
Um, I went to school and yeah, I got my bachelor's in business
Hmm.
and I got my MBA. And man, it's just been a long journey, brother.
Wow.
Long journey.
So how did what was growing up in Lansing like? Like what was that
Oh,
like having
well, it's
knowing
it
Mike Magic Johnson's from there? What's the culture kind of like?
it's small town.
Hmm.
Small town. It is everybody knows everybody. A lot of family, man, there.
Hmm.
Uh, and it was real slow. I found myself um being here in Louisville, like I'm pretty conservative.
Hmm.
I'm very conservative. And it was back in the 80s, man. It wasn't too bad.
Hmm.
I know my mom, she had me when she was 16.
Hmm.
Had my brother when she was 15, and then had my sister when she was 17. Um, and I grew up in the church. Um, and that was an experience there. I was pretty
Hmm.
closed off when my mom started going to church, um, and wasn't exposed to a lot of things. She wouldn't even let us. I think we went trick or treating like once or twice.
Hmm.
And then after that, she was like, "Nah, We didn't go to no parties, man. We didn't do nothing. And
Mm,
so pretty closed off there. Didn't really we didn't live in a house, you know, early in age. Me and my brother and my sister lived in, we all shared the same room and the same bed.
mm,
And then we moved into like a government subsidized duplex,
mm,
where me and my brother had our room together and then my sister had her room. But we didn't have much, man. We didn't have much at all. My mom didn't, she didn't graduate high school, you know. My biological father was physically abusive towards my mom. Um, and so I knew about that, you know, early in age, and she had left him and got with her boyfriend, and you know that was an experience until she got with my stepdad,
mm,
and they've been married for 30, 30 years now.
mm.
I'm 48, so yeah, they've been married like 30 years, man.
Wow.
Yeah, 30 years. But it wasn't bad, but it wasn't the best either.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Like we had powdered milk at some point. We had the
mm,
government cheese. We had food stamps, man. Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, we never really went without.
mm,
Um, but we didn't. I didn't have everything I wanted either.
mm,
So, but yeah, man, and in Lansing, Michigan, you know, as far as employment,
mm.
it was either working at the post office or working for GM
Yeah.
or some other little factory type thing, man. But it's basically like blue collar, a blue collar city, I think. I,
Right.
I, would-
Right.
I would say it's a blue collar city, not anything like corporate or anything like that. I mean, I guess the biggest thing there is MSU and East Lansing.
Mm,
You know, but they do have Cooley Law School, which is cool.
mm.
But that's about it, man. Yeah.
Gotcha. So I guess by the time you're getting to high school and you're getting ready to graduate, you're pretty much ready to like start a family, join the military. Like you're looking to get out of Lansing at that point.
Yeah, I had got married my senior year of high school, and before I got married, I was working at Meyer.
Mm,
Meyer is a grocery store, and I was a bagger there and pushing carts.
yeah.
So when I got married my senior year, my parents kicked me out the house. So
Mm,
I had to go live with my grandma.
mm,
Um and And so was working, so I started working for Meyer full time. And
mm,
then from there, I worked again, Lansing is like a blue collar city. So I worked at Applegate Installation
mm,
where I was working like 12 hours a day. In Applegate Installation, they made installation. So
mm.
like recycled installation,
Right.
filling for homes, man. And so I was working like this little line job, man. And yeah, that was crazy there. And then from there, I went to working for Dark Container, which is a styrofoam cup company.
Hmm.
I worked there and was assembling machines there. And then from there, I went into the military.
Mm,
Because I figured like, man, this will probably be the best bet to be able to provide for my family,
hmm.
for myself. So I joined that. And then from there, I got shipped off to San Diego, California.
Mm. I guess what was that experience like getting into the military?
Yeah, so I took the ASVAB. I didn't score pretty high.
Hmm.
So I was an undesignated airman.
Mm,
Boot camp was different. Man, and I definitely have to share a picture of me and my sister that was after boot camp.
mm,
But it was different, man. Again, coming from small town and no exposure to really much anything. We didn't really travel growing up.
mm,
The only place that I've been to was Cedar Point, been to Chicago like one time with my grandfather. Then I went to Savannah with my dad,
mm.
but we didn't really go anywhere else, man.
Gotcha.
So pretty closed off. But it was a good experience. I would say the military was probably the best one of the best decisions that I made in my life. Because
Uh,
that exposure
mhm,
from small Lansing
mhm,
to metropolis San Diego, culturized San Diego, right by the border.
mhm,
I didn't know what a Filipino was until I got there.
mhm.
But it was great though. I mean, it exposed me to everything that I think I needed.
Got you. Did you seek out different things like growing up so sheltered in Lansing, or did you get into any trouble, or did you just like follow the rules and do as you were told?
Oh, I followed the rules. I did what I was told. I didn't go outside the line that much. I went to Tijuana a couple times, but
But
it
once you're
was
in
the
San Diego,
DJ
you're
for
a
the
little
Navy.
closer.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like it's literally like right across the like 30 minutes, man. You're in TJ,
Gotcha.
Tijuana, Mexico. But yeah, I wasn't a troublemaker or anything like that, man. I was a undesignated airman and just doing what I needed to do, man.
Right, right.
And
I guess I also meant when you were younger, not necessarily when you joined the
oh, when I was
military.
younger, I did what I was told. I was
Gotcha.
a I was a people pleaser type
Mm,
kid. Did what mom and daddy wanted. They want me to sing in the choir. I'm singing in the choir. They want me to clap my hands, so I'm clapping my hands and everything. Yeah, yeah. I never got in trouble. I never got into a fight, man. Well, actually,
yeah,
I got into a fight, but it was me and my other partner jumping on this other little kid, man. Which was just it was crazy, man. But other
yeah.
than I never really got into a fight. Never been in an altercation, or anything like that. I've been to jail,
Hmm.
um, and that was crazy there too, man. Prior to me getting into the in the military, man, I was in county jail for a little bit over some stuff, man, which was, I'm glad it worked out the way it did, but yeah, my brother
Gotcha.
on the other hand, he was the one that was in trouble.
Mm. So
Mhm.
him coming before you, you kind of saw a little bit of what not to do or what happened if you didn't follow suit.
Oh,
So it might
yeah.
be like,
Yeah, I saw a lot of
I don't want those problems.
Yeah, I saw a lot of it, man. Even though I wasn't like a real stickler for school.
Hmm.
I didn't get straight A's or anything like that. I barely graduated high school, barely graduated. But I know that I didn't want that life.
Hmm.
So I did my own thing.
Was the plan always to, I guess, did you know that you were going to get kicked out at 18, or was there like a disagreement with you and your parents, or was it just like, hey, when you hit this age, you're out of the house. You kids got to get out of here.
No, they didn't want me to get married. My
Mm,
mom was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. They didn't want me to get. Well, I would say they didn't want me to get married to the person I married.
mm,
Uh, they told me not to. A lot of people told me not to, but I was hard at it,
mm,
and so I did it anyway.
mm,
Uh, and and they were like, okay, well, you want to be grown, so go be grown on your own. And so
mm.
I moved upstairs in my grandma's house.
Gotcha.
Yeah, me and my wife, then we moved into my grandma's house, man.
Grandma didn't give you any pushback.
Um, oh, she didn't. She didn't, man. My grandma, man, she was a rock solid person, man. I would say, man, she never had a license, so she walked everywhere.
Mm,
She was a community person, man. She loved everybody, and she welcomed everybody, man. And so, um, yeah, she let us stay upstairs and everything, and gave her money for rent here and there until I
gotcha.
got my own apartment.
Mm. And I guess, what did you learn from being married, say like a year or so in? Like, was it, yeah, what was that experience like? Was it everything you expected or?
No, man, it was miserable. It
Mm,
was, yeah, it wasn't because I got married for the wrong reasons. I
mm,
told myself this is as good as it gets for me.
mm,
Like this woman is as good as it gets for me because I really didn't value myself, had low self-esteem, and so um, she was it, and and because I thought that, I didn't think very highly of myself, I allowed myself to be treated like it wasn't the best,
Right.
and so, and that was years. We were married for like 9 years until I was like, no, I'm good. I'm done with this.
Mm. I guess
So,
what changed or what kind of helped you make that decision?
because I wasn't happy and I was tired of not being happy,
Mm.
and I felt caged like a caged bird,
Mm.
and so I was like, I can't continue to live like this. And there's a point where, you know, I got punched and slapped, and I said, you know what? If I let this go on any longer,
Mm.
somebody's really going to get hurt because I just can't keep taking this.
Mm.
And so I was like, I'm going to file for divorce.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And my then wife and my two daughters, they were all in California with me.
Mm.
And so I had to make that hard decision, man, to divorce and then to basically give up my kids. Yeah.
How long did it take to find yourself once you did that or to get to a better mind state?
Um, years.
Mm.
Years because I didn't allow myself time to heal from that relationship.
Mm.
So I jumped from that one into right into another relationship with a woman who was still married and
Mm.
going through her divorce.
Mm.
And so I did like an extended rebound and ended up marrying her, which was stupid. I
Mm.
was dumb. And so it took me some years, man, to really um, uh, go on the path of like my healing
Mm.
internally, man. And so it just, yeah. So, I was married to her for 3 years,
Mm.
uh, and with her for like six.
And this is all during your military career. So like you're still having to report to work. I mean that's your main job and then your home life is that like you not necessarily knowing yourself.
No, no, I didn't, man. And even during that time when I'm with this other young lady, I'm still at odds with, wanting to be a father and see my kids and but
Mm.
not having that opportunity really because my daughter's mother was just she was upset with me
Mm.
for, getting the divorce um and everything and I was still I still wasn't healed, man. And so I was still out doing stupid stuff,
Yeah.
even while I was with this young lady here. Um, it didn't start off that way, but it ended that way where I was just, just out there, man. Just really
Mm.
out there. Yeah, I didn't give myself time to really be single and to come into a different level of understanding of who
Mm.
I was and why I was the way I was.
Mm.
You know, yeah. I mean, and here's the thing, man. It's still evolving even now. I'm still finding out things about myself and still weeding and sifting through, you know, memories and behaviors and tendencies, man.
Mm.
It's just an ongoing process of growth and
Right.
change and awareness.
Mm. I guess what got you started going in that direction to the point to where it's like you're in the military and then either while you're still in the military or once you're planning to get out or once you get out you're like I'm going to go to school and I'm going to study this field which is based on helping people heal or understand their human behaviors.
Yeah, well, when I got out, I knew that I needed to get my education.
Hmm.
And so I just started in business. And so when I got out, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
And so I started school, but I also started feeding homeless.
Hmm.
And so every Friday, man, a buddy of mine who was getting out too, he said, "Hey, man, there's a young lady who's going downtown and helping to feed the homeless. You might like that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I started to help feed the homeless, man, and that turned into a nonprofit organization called Jesus Cares. And so from there, man, again, I was in school getting my bachelor's degree. Um, but from from serving, man, a guy who owned an auto shop said, "Hey, man, you make this great soup. You're cooking up all these great meals. I have a cafe inside of an auto shop. You know, you can use it.
Mm-hmm.
You can have it and run a kitchen out of there." And so I was at that point I was like, man, I could maybe go to school and become a chef, you
Mm-hmm.
know, culinary arts. And so I went and got my Serve Safe certification for food handlers and was working out of this little small auto shop, you know, and call it the Garage Cafe.
Mm-hmm.
I was making soups and all kind of stuff there, man, and you know, serving his customers and then trying to um, go throughout. It was an industrial area, and so I was going to, you know, drop off flyers that I had created,
Mm-hmm.
man, for the Garage Cafe and little small menu items that I was cooking up, man. And so,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I still didn't know, so I was just going with what I knew because I
Right,
had
right.
as a kid, in middle school, high school, my mom and dad would always take us to feed the less fortunate.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, shoot, what better way, and with feeding less fortunate in San Diego, man, I told myself I wouldn't give them anything that I wouldn't eat myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I made a butternut squash marinara meatball sub with
Mm-hmm.
fried green tomatoes. I made chili. I made dumplings. I made soups, man. I made like all kinds of stuff, man.
Mm-hmm.
All kinds of stuff. And we would walk the streets and feed the homeless. Um, and so that was where it started. And then um, the cafe fizzled off, man. And then I started working for Hertz. I got a job working for Hertz, and that's a rental car place.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I ended up transferring from San Diego. I was living in Oceanside, California, to Chicago because I wanted to be closer to my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so I transferred from there to Chicago. I found a house where I could
Mm-hmm.
rent a room.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wasn't making that much money because I was still paying alimony and child support and all of
Mm-hmm.
that. So um, I had just left all my stuff. Well, actually, what I'm trying to think what I did. I think um, I, I, I moved my stuff to or left it. I left it somewhere. It was either in San Diego or I moved it back to Michigan. Yeah, moved it back to Michigan, and then I was in
Mm-hmm.
Chicago, and I didn't have a bed or anything like that, man. And so I was sleeping on an air mattress there, and going to school
Yeah.
and working at the same time.
Wow.
And so, and I didn't have a vehicle,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was walking to the train station to take the train into work and to get back from work, man.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a whole. I didn't have a way to go and visit my kids because my car had got repoed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, it was just yeah, it was. Whew, you talking about a journey, man? Yeah, it was crazy. So my car got repoed, so I didn't have a vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, man, it was. I worked there for a little bit, and then I ended up getting terminated from Hertz,
Mm-hmm.
and and from there, then I ended up moving home with my mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Almost full circle, like.
yeah, crazy. Moved in with them, and at that point, they had a house, which we had never lived in a house before. But
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't until I got out and I was in the military that they were able to buy themselves a house.
Mm-hmm.
So they bought a house, and so I moved all of my stuff into the basement from San Diego,
Mm-hmm.
um, and was living there. And then I ended up getting a job working at dark container again because when you enter the military,
Hmm.
right, whatever job you were working, right, they're obligated to give you that job back
Mm.
when you exit the military.
Gotcha.
So I was able to get a job working there.
Mm.
So I started working there. But I had finished my bachelor's while I was in Chicago.
Hmm.
And then I went immediately into an MBA program.
Mm.
And so I'm still working a full-time job at Dart, and I'm going to school
Mm.
to finish my MBA. But even doing all of that, man, I still didn't feel like that was it for me,
Mm.
until I took an occupational assessment.
Mm.
With the occupational assessment, it came up with teacher, counselor, social worker, therapist, and I was like, therapist. Boom, that's it.
Mm.
And so I found a program through Capella University that was K-CREP accredited, um, where I could start a program in clinical mental health counseling.
Mm.
So I started that, man, and man, it was I was like, this is it. This
Yeah,
is it for me right here. This is my lane.
I like it. And I guess now I know where your love for food comes from. If you're cooking good food to give to other people, you're gonna have to like it yourself a little bit too.
Hmm. Oh yes. Yes.
How'd you learn to cook, or like, where did you come up with some of your recipes?
I learned to cook from my mom for
Mm.
sure. My mom and my grandma and my grandfather. I remember my grandfather, man. He made homemade ice cream in this. It was a wooden ice cream maker, man.
Mm.
And I swear that was the best ice cream I've had in my life, man. I've never had an ice cream that tastes like that since.
Mm.
But yeah, watching them, my mom, she was always in the kitchen cooking and everything. And so I would be in the kitchen with her cooking. My
Mm.
mom told me when I was little, I would always, or I think high school, middle school, I was bringing cookbooks home, asking her, to make this or make that, or can we make this and that.
Mm.
So, yeah, so I was always curious in that. And I just had uh, a natural knack for cooking, man. Like I could take something and make it into whatever.
Mm.
Whatever's in the cabinet, I'm gonna make something out of it.
Yeah. So I guess even in those times when you're in the military, you're going from San Diego to Chicago and things like that, you might not have a bed, but you make sure that whatever food you're getting, like it's going to taste good, it's going to be to your liking.
Yeah.
So it's like food's not something you're playing with, even if you don't
Ah.
know necessarily what direction you're going in.
Oh yeah. No, I was. Yeah. I always been a beast in the kitchen. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what's up. It's funny because it's like I remember the time that we got to hang out within you, Mike Lawrence, and EL.
Yeah.
Like that was one of the best times ever that I remember being
No,
like going to
man.
New York and like just
Crazy.
walking around trying out the vegan spot, and whether it was breakfast or dinner, just throwing down, oh yeah, Dewan Matunga was there. And it was
Yeah.
like, man, like just having that fellowship of brotherhood and also just like enjoying good food. But at the same time, I had to be like, okay, like I gotta stay in my league. Like I can't eat as much as I'd like to. It's like it's like
Me
you
and
guys are
EL, we smashing.
right, right. You guys were
We was
trained
smashing.
professionals. And I was like, I can do one or two plates. That's about it. Like almost had it like the whole table was lined out. But
Oh,
man, that's always a good time.
yeah, yeah, it was, man. Man, that was great, man. And just walking the streets and just touring stuff, man. Man, right. I loved it.
Yeah. And I guess before we fast forward to that, like going back to when you moved back with your parents, like you come out of the military, you're figuring out this career, you're gone to school, got your bachelor's, like how did that dynamic feel to you?
Um, I mean, again, I felt like, having a degree was an accomplishment,
Hmm.
but it still wasn't enough because I wasn't making an impact.
Mm.
So a degree doesn't equal purpose.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Um, and so therefore I was, just working these jobs, but I didn't have any type of fulfillment
mm,
I wasn't satisfied. There was no peace. I wasn't happy,
yeah.
you know. And so when I started that program, it also helped me to heal more.
Mm,
And then to also realize, like, man, I need to heal more. Shoot, I know a lot of other people need to heal more as far as especially us as men,
right.
So how can I use this to help youth? How can I use this to help men? How can I use this to help myself
Hmm.
heal? And to again just become more aware of my own habits and tendencies, um, and to just make some corrections.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it was a process for sure.
And what was the program like going through it? Like you're back in your home city, like you're going
Yeah,
to a local school, like you
yeah,
got.
I was I was working when well I was working for the VA,
Hmm.
um and um and at that point I was in
Mm,
um Battle Creek, and I was reestablishing my relationship with my daughters.
mm,
So here I'm doing that and going to school and everything, and it was good. I was also going to a place of change where Pastor Eric Thomas and TJ Tice
mm,
there. And so I was working with his school days program. Um I was working with him on things as he was going to different schools and stuff like that. And I was like, oh yeah, this is it for here for me. I mean, I really like working with kids and youth and everything,
mm,
man. So um kind of gotten to a point in my program where I needed to do my internship hours.
mm,
And I had asked the VA, asked my boss if I could take like a leave of absence so I could finish, do these hours and then maybe work for the VA.
mm,
And then they were like, no. And so I quit.
mm,
So I quit there, and I ended up getting a little part-time job working at community mental health. And I was
mm,
working with the Veterans Resource Navigator program
mm.
with a guy that I grew up with. And he was a therapist too. He's a social worker. And
Wow.
so it just, I mean, God, like, man, you take a step and then God takes two steps for you. And
Mm,
so it had worked out. And then with doing that, I was also volunteering at Michigan Works GED program.
mm,
I was helping out with their youth there. Again, I was doing um, school days with Eric Thomas there and trying to help out there.
mm,
And and I was just volunteering with the Michigan Works GED program to the point where they said, "Hey, you've been helping us out so much, we want to start paying you."
mm,
And so they started paying me, and then I started volunteering at a local high school, Sexton,
mm,
and then from there, I ended up getting a full-time job working as um, academic intervention specialist at Sexton High School.
mm.
And that was through a relationship with the principal there. And now I'm still finishing my degree program. I get to work with youth, and I'm still doing the Michigan Works GED program and everything. And
Mm.
I get to really apply some of the stuff that I'm learning. And it was great. It was
Yeah.
great. And and it was from there that ended up, connecting with Dr. PI. He was telling me about a program that he was creating with U of a partnership he was creating with U of L Health
Mm,
to bring licensed therapists and to build a team, excuse me, just to work with the athletic department specifically.
mm,
And so I was like, man. this would be great.
Hmm.
I'm down with that. And so um I've been working at Sexton for like 2 years. And then PI was like, hey, come down, check out the campus and everything. Let me know how you like it.
Hmm.
I drove down, stayed with him, met a lot of the coaches and everything like that. And then it was like 6 months later or so. He called me back, was like, hey, you still good? You still want the job? I was like, yeah.
Hmm.
And so I didn't have to interview or anything. They just said, hey, you want the job? It's yours. Sent the letter. And then I was like, okay. So I packed up and moved down to Louisville, Kentucky.
Hmm.
Been here 2 years now, and I'm going on three. And I told people it's the dream job I didn't dream of.
Hmm. Man, that's so dope. It's interesting, like as you're starting to go through the program, you're volunteering and you're I guess you're continuing to do what kind of helped you getting out of the military, which was taking care of people. Like, how did you start getting plugged into like the local communities and getting in, like going to a place of change or meeting Eric Thomas or Dr. TJ Tyus and like all these different people. Obviously, we met through the men's prayer line, but like, how did
Mhm.
you get plugged in locally first before like becoming exposed to more and more people and like I guess your world kind of growing as you kept going forward.
Yeah, so when I moved back, my dad, because I was listening to ET
Hmm.
for a while before I had actually moved, and then my dad told me when I moved back, he was like, "Hey, he has a church." I was like, "He has a church?"
Hmm.
Like, oh, okay. And so I started going to the church, man. Started going to the church, and this is way back when they were renting out space on West Saginaw, or yeah. And yeah, it was years, man. It's been some, like 2016,
Yeah.
2016, 2014, 2016, way back then, man. And and so I just got connected with him and seen everything that he was doing
Hmm.
with youth and all of that. And he saw that I was the type of person where I wasn't asking for anything.
Hmm.
I just wanted to serve,
Right.
and so he was like, "Yeah, I'll plug you in. You can do this, you can do that." And it's like, cool. And I went with him to a lot of different places, man, and helped out and did things and all of that, man. And I never asked for anything, man. I didn't, yeah, I wasn't one who was trying to jump on the ET bandwagon and, all of that. I didn't do any of that, man. I
Right.
just wanted to serve, man. I just wanted to help.
Yeah. And I think even watching you from a distance, like I think I started listening to ET about 2013, 2014, around there, like starting in my career, like post college. And like upon like 2016, 2017, jumping on the Breve University, learning about the men's prayer call, and
Mhm.
then like meeting some of the people, either like you meet people online, you meet people offline, whether it's like through a conference call and things like that, you start getting familiar with people's voices. And I guess maybe like you pick up on different people's energy. And it was
Mhm.
like, I always got that sense from you where it's like you were someone that was present and you gave first before you asked, and then just being in the capacity of being able to counsel, I was like, okay, I need to reach out and ask for help because like later on, like you go through those like hard periods before like you get to your late 20s, 30s, you're trying to figure out like where am I going in life, what's going on, and it kind of feels weird to ask for help, but then like when you ask for help, you get someone like yourself that's actually responsive and like, yeah, I can help you out, like we can talk, and it's like, okay. And like first conversation goes well, but then the next conversation you have like that tape that's playing in the back of your mind that's just like, no, you're gonna disappoint this, that, and the other. And it's like
Mhm.
you just get on the call and it's like, no, it's not that. And at some point either I felt like I either ran away completely from the conversation or like time goes by longer. And then when you come back to it, it's like, oh, I thought I was gonna get judged in this way or that way. And it's like, nope, like not carrying any of that, not
Hmm.
really thinking any of that. So it's dope to see that like your character really comes through as to the life that you lived through, but also like the things that you choose going forward and like in like how you choose to experience life and who you get to be. Like you there's what you might show people, but I think it's also a reflection of like who you are, not necessarily needing to pretend to like, oh, I'll put on this face for this person and I'll put on this other face. But then it's like
Hmm.
coming from that background of people pleasing and like just doing as you're told all the time. And then now you're learning to heal yourself. Like, was there a point when things started to kind of go different where you're like, okay, I'm practicing this or this old habit's no longer working for me and I need to like be in a different environment, be around different people or like
Hmm.
start walking differently, start letting some things go, letting some people go.
Yeah, I mean, and when it came to my relationships, private relationships,
Hmm.
yeah, I was a people pleaser, man, and it kept going until I realized, like, man, I can't. Yeah, this is not gonna work. I gotta stop doing things for other people versus for myself. In addition to, like, even in serving, you could serve so much, man, and but never, get your needs met.
Right.
You know, and never getting your cup full, you know what I'm saying? And so I had to also realize, okay, so why am I doing this?
Mm,
So am I serving because I want to gain some type of status approval, or am I serving because of the kindness of my heart? And I'm expecting God to reward me and not these people.
mm,
And so I got to that point where I was like, okay, I'm picking and choosing what I want to do and how I want to do it
mhm.
so that I'm in the right frame of mind as far as my expectations.
Right, right.
Tell people when you have high expectations, so is the risk of disappointment.
Mm,
And so if I have these expectations, you know, and I believe people have like, I call them illegitimate agreements, is what I call it. You form these illegitimate agreements in your mind that if I do this, I'm going to get this in return.
mm,
And so I did that, and I wouldn't get in return what I wanted, and
mhm.
so I was like, I'm disappointed
Right.
because I've set these expectations, and it's not meeting um, my needs and the things that I want, and so I need to figure out, okay, what I need to cut off,
Mm,
what I need to do, and so I started doing that, and and it started helping me to be a lot happier and healthier, um, and cut off certain relationships too,
mm,
um, so that I could, continue to develop it into the best version of myself, man. And so um, when I started doing that, I definitely became like I look better, I feel better, I have more energy,
mm,
because I'm not giving my energy to people and things that I shouldn't.
mm. That makes sense. I think I heard it called in a book titled No More Mr. Nice Guy as covert contracts.
Oh yeah, I got that book over. I got it over here somewhere.
Got you. It's
Yeah.
funny that that book was given to me or suggested to me by a close friend, and we're still friends because initially when I read it, I was upset because I just felt exposed, and I think I started to do a book review on it, and then in reading it back years later after going through so many of the exercises, I felt like I was like white knuckling it, like struggling to write the things
Mm-hmm.
down. And just one of the first things that it talks about in there is like finding a group of safe people or like two to three safe people or like uh, a men's group or something like that, where it's interesting that as they say, the the better you communicate with people of the same sex, the better you can um, treat yourself or feel loved, and then you um, the better that you interact with people of the opposite sex, where it's like you're not trying to get your needs met in illegitimate ways, and then you're not constantly seeking approval in ways that other people can't really meet your needs, and then trying to have the outside fill you up when you feel empty inside. So it's like if you're running around looking for love, it's like it's a question of why do you why do you not have love from within that you feel like you need to be filled from an outside source? And some
Yeah,
some of those deep questions kind of hit to where it's like when you think about them, it's like, oh, there's a lot
yeah.
in there.
No, no. I've told people, I've said, so you can't love above, you can't love above nor beyond the capacity in which you love yourself,
Mm,
at or above or beyond. And so if you can't learn to love yourself, you know, then truly, how are you loving other people?
mhm,
You know, and I had to learn to do that, love me,
mm,
like really learn to value, what I bring to the table and
mm,
know that I can't just give that to anybody. Because there are so many people who will use what you have,
mhm.
right? You build them up and everything, man, and it's just um to get to where they need to be, and then after that, no longer needed,
Yeah.
you know. So
I guess
yeah, man.
have you been able to spot those types of people or just do a better job of loving yourself more to where you don't even interact with the people that may just be takers?
To spot them, yeah,
Hmm.
definitely. You can spot them, and then I just don't reach out.
Mm.
They ask me, oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
it that is funny because it's like if you it's like if someone knows you're not serving something, they don't come to you for that. But it's like if they know that, oh, this person's always down to clown. It's oh, I can go and ask for this, and it's like they just volunteer it. It's like it won't
Hmm.
even be a question.
Yeah. No, man, I just stopped doing it. Or I'll ask,
Hmm.
and say, hey, let's, I'll ask a question and based on their response, and I'm like, okay,
Mm.
I won't ask again.
What's an example of a question you might ask?
Um, so so for one, I'll because again, I'm a person who likes to serve and everything,
Hmm.
and I want to really be an asset to the community. So I asked a question on, like, hey, how can we collaborate?
Hmm.
You know, and no answer.
Hmm.
And then when they see me in public, oh man, I meant to get back with you. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well, you had that opportunity. I reached out and
Right.
but now that you see me,
Hmm.
now it's like, oh yeah, let's
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
do something. Like, no, no, thank you. It's all good.
Right. Right. Because it's almost like one of those things where in person it's more out of convenience than it is out of consideration for you. And like,
Mhm.
I mean, we all get busy, but it's like if you really cared about something, you would look into it, revisit it, like take action there on the spot or
Yeah.
something of that sort.
No, if it was important, then you would have made time for it.
Right.
So obviously it wasn't, and that's fine.
Yeah.
No harm, no foul.
And I to that point, um, maybe I forgot that it was in the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like that. I'd heard ET highlight that quadrant of like, what are the things that are like important or an emergency, what are
Mm-hmm.
not important,
Urgent.
urgent, yeah, like urgent, important, not important, emergency. And like just being able to classify those things, it's like everything can't be important and like everything can't really matter. Like you can maybe like something or you might be interested in something, but it's like what's going on right here, right now, like there's not a whole lot that like there's noise, there's like videos we can scroll through, there could be a movie release, there could be
Mm-hmm.
election coming up, there could be this, that, and the other. And it's like
It's
stuff's
always
always
something.
going to be going. And it's like you can't you you, you got to pick and choose what's right for you.
Facts. Yeah, man. And if it's not in alignment with, where you feel like you're going uh, in your life, then you have an opportunity to say no.
Yeah. It's interesting when you say no to something and there's like that is like there's a space between like the anxiety that you might feel from the did I make the right decision to the peace that you get after the fact. And it's like, oh yeah, I did, because like that stress, that worry, it's no
Mhm.
longer there. And I'm either focused on what it is that I actually need, or I let go of the burden that was, and I like moved on.
Yeah, and typically that anxiety or worry comes from feeling like you disappointed someone.
Mm,
Like, or I let them down. What are they going to think of me?
mm-hmm.
And so when you stop worrying about what other people are going to think of you, now that anxiety, that worry, that fear is gone.
Yeah,
I'm good. And I'm moving on to the next thing.
right. Man, that's a good point. So then what's it been like being in a new environment in Louisville and just switching things up a bit?
Yeah, man, it's been so I had to tell myself you don't have to um you don't have to ask for permission.
Mm,
I don't have to ask for permission to be in places where I'm supposed to be.
mm,
And so, if I'm in a suite, you
mm,
know, because I have access to the suite,
mm,
I don't have to walk around timid uh or like I shouldn't be there.
right.
No. I should be there and I'm relevant,
Mm,
you know. And so I think that's been it for me. Like God wouldn't put me in places where, where it wasn't already mine,
right.
And so I'm just noticing that, man, and people affirm it, man, and God affirms it, and I start to believe it, or I believe it.
Mm,
I believe it, man. And so so I carry myself differently and I and I just, continue to look for ways where I can, be of value and service,
mm,
and doors open, in one way or another.
yeah,
Doors open, man, and I just keep walking through them.
I like that. How do you this morning we talked about trauma and we I think I touched on it briefly a little bit, but
Mhm.
how do you deal with um trauma that might be triggered when you're kind of going about your day to day and it's like something just pops up or it feels like it pops up when it's like I thought I dealt with that. Like how do you
Mm.
maybe talk yourself down from a cliff to where you're like, oh geez, I'm back to being this little kid that felt like he was either abandoned or just like
Yeah, man.
instead of running around and doing the old habits, like how do you kind of like recognize or become aware in the moment of what's going on?
So, it's recognizing, being able to identify those feelings, the
Mm-hmm.
sensations, um, that go on in your body. Like yesterday, me and my girl were going to a party,
Mm-hmm.
and we were late, like extremely late,
Mm-hmm.
like a whole hour late.
Mm-hmm.
And so thoughts start going through my mind about why we're late
Mm-hmm.
and blaming people for why we're late and all these other things. And I'm like, and I start to um, have a certain level of like maybe um, resentment. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Oh, why we gotta be late? How come people didn't plan it better?
Mm-hmm.
Here I am ready and all these other things. And then I started to like basically trying to think of the right term for this one. But it's a part of cognitive distortions, man. And when you assign um one thing as a um I want to say it's almost like a blanketed statement, like this
Mm-hmm.
always happens.
Right, right,
And that it doesn't always happen,
right.
you
Or
know.
like someone becomes the root cause of like, oh, this is the source of all my problems.
Yeah, yeah, it could be, yeah, like that, man. And then just and so I took a deep breath. I stopped myself. I realized my thoughts. I'm like, this is not necessarily true. Um, and it's gonna be okay. We get there when we get there.
Right.
You know, the point is you're with the person that you want to be with,
Mm-hmm.
and you can make the night be as enjoyable as you want or as miserable as you want.
Right.
And so if you want to let something like this stop you from having a good evening,
Mm-hmm.
then you can, or you can change your thinking,
Mm-hmm.
make an adjustment. Don't deny your feelings because I didn't deny them. I acknowledge my feelings. Okay, yeah, I feel that way. Now
Mm-hmm.
let's examine why am I feeling this way?
Mm-hmm.
Blah 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 blah. Okay, is this a fact or is this an opinion?
Mm-hmm.
Does this happen all the time or is it just this time?
Right.
Does this is this person intentionally doing it or not like all of these things. And so now I'm, I was on the ladder about to jump off, and so I climbed back down the ladder and I'm like, oh, okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
And the evening went well and everything went well. It was fun, great time, and I just realized, and again, none of this stuff was vocalized to the other person, to my girlfriend. It
Mm-hmm.
was just all in my head.
Right.
And I was just talking to myself about it because certain things you don't need to necessarily, you know, um, bring up.
Right. Right.
You just need to work through it yourself. And so that's what I did.
Yeah. I, I remember the first time you gave me a set of questions to kind of work through, especially when it comes to the one that always sticks with me is catastrophizing. I
Yeah,
think that's what it is. And it's
yeah,
like
black and white.
something happens that's unpleasant or something that you don't want to happen. And then you go to ultimatum statements like this always happens, you never do this. And it's like, okay, is that a fact? Like, is that true? Like, is there anything opposite of that? Is there anything that challenges that belief?
Mhm.
And then it's like it's weird where you do like a mental gymnastics with yourself where it's like on the one hand you want to get well and you want to get through your thoughts, you want to let go of what's like keeping you held up, like what you're wrestling with, but on the other hand it's almost like if you've tried something but you haven't done it completely, like I would start telling myself that I've done this before and it hasn't worked, like why do I think it's going to work now? And
Yeah,
it's that having to address your language and change the way that you speak to yourself, change the things that you talk about, how you talk about. Like when language becomes just so casual, it's like you say things without saying them. But if you have someone to bounce them off of, or if you have it written down in black and white and you don't judge what's said, but you read it, and it's like is this really what I'm choosing to identify with or choosing to agree with to move forward? And it's like,
Yeah.
you don't you don't have to, or no, I don't want that. And it's like, okay, well, how do I go about not wanting this, and what can I do differently? And
Hmm.
like being able to embrace like just different things, or another option that just keeps you from constantly going down the spiral of like I'm suffering, 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 suffering.
Hmm.
And it's like you're gonna keep suffering because misery loves company. And it's like if
Yeah.
unless you find a way to break the cycle, kind of going through that question or going through that talk in your head, it's that you're kind of hamstrung or like handcuffed by your own, like by your own reasoning. And it's like your reasoning's not completely right because it's like you don't necessarily know exactly what you need.
Yeah. No, facts, facts. And what I start teach, I mean, I teach people, man, the cognitive triangle
Mm,
uh, for thoughts, and you have a situation, you
mhm,
have a thought, and then you have an emotion, then you have a behavior, and there's all these arrows that go back and forth through each one. But what you don't see in that is your belief.
mm,
And so it's your belief about the situation which will change your thoughts, that will change your behaviors, and which will change your emotions.
mm,
All right. And so if we can adjust our belief, so I had to adjust my belief about the
mhm.
situation, about being late. So
Right.
now I can have different thoughts. And then by having different thoughts, now I can have a different emotion.
Mm,
And then from a different emotion, I can have a different behavior.
yeah.
And so when we start to change, and even in with certain behaviors, if we change our belief about a behavior, or we can change our belief about an emotion that we're feeling,
Mhm.
then we can change the thoughts behind it.
Right.
But what's out of our control most of the time is the situation.
Mm. But then we think that the situation dictates our outcome or our response to it.
No, it's our belief about the situation.
Mm,
And so when I can adjust my belief, then now, like you said, I don't have to suffer.
mm. And it's interesting because like one of the people that I follow online is Dr. Jordan B. Peterson out of Canada. And one of the things that I'd heard him say from time to time is that like life is suffering, but it's like it's a choice in the type of suffering that you choose, because like in the way that you work out, like you understand that in going to the gym and working out, maybe it's like you sacrifice the time. I don't know if that's counted as like a suffering, or like you stretch your muscles to a point to where they tear in a
Mhm.
way, or they go through like a controlled trauma that helps you build, grow, and redevelop new muscle tissue and things like that, to where in the long run it does help you become happier, healthier. But it's like if you do the opposite, where initially it was like something that he pushed back on, and I don't know if I like a lot of what he says because it helps me to think. And it's like usually when you look at being happy, like in the face of just like um taking on crap and not necessarily being who you need to be as an individual, it's like happiness does seem like that thing you need to reach for, which is like this situation that I'm in is not ideal. And then how I get to the ideal situation is I've got to take some steps to change my beliefs, change my outcome. And it's like on the one hand, obviously, it's like sitting down eating a tub of ice cream, it might make me happy, but it's not
Mhm.
going to be what I need in the long run. Like you could still have the ice cream or have this or have that, but like
Yeah.
sometimes it feels like there's like an order of operations you have to kind of play with and be willing to like take a little bit off the menu, like take a little taste test of everything. It's like, well,
Mhm.
maybe you don't need to do and try everything, but like there are things that grow you, and then there are other things that kind of shrink you or keep you stagnant. And then all of a sudden, what was good for you turns into like poison, and it's affecting you in a negative way.
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, when you say, life is suffering, I think, and you said it, you know, I guess you get to choose how you will suffer,
Yeah.
like certain things. Like for me, I have back pain,
Mm,
pinched nerve in my back, right?
mm,
And so I can choose to manage the pain, right?
mm,
In the sense of I can go get a shot,
mm,
or I can maybe even get surgery,
mm,
or I can maybe practice some hot yoga, try some different exercises,
mm,
water aerobics, so I can manage the pain in a different way,
mm.
right? I get a choice in how I'm going to suffer through this,
Right.
right? And then, there's also, you know, um, the just the you don't have to basically go through things that you don't want to go through,
Mm.
in the sense of like you understanding you have a choice on how you go through it,
Right. Right.
and
But
when you have a choice, you know, be okay with the choice that you made,
mm,
and I think all of us, if we go through our life and if we, just really start to manage the choices we made and start to look at the choices we made and how can we make that choice better, you
right.
know, uh, again, like my back pain, I don't want to have surgery
Mm,
and I don't even want to get a shot, right?
mm,
And so now, what are some other things that I can do to help manage this? So what did I do? I asked my doctor, and they're
mm,
like, well, they have breath work,
mm,
and breath work can help you engage your, somatic system, you know, to whereas it's reducing the pain,
mm.
you know. And so I'm looking at that. I'm also looking at what are some other exercises and things that I can do to manage that?
Mm.
What are some other muscles that I can build to maybe build around those muscles and those nerves that could maybe lessen the pain
Mm.
so that I'm not getting the surgery. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I get a choice. We all get a choice. So if someone is going through some type of suffering mentally,
Mm,
you have a choice on how you're going to go through that.
mm,
You can choose medication,
mm,
you can choose medication and therapy, or you can choose therapy, or you can choose some other form of coping through addiction or other behaviors that aren't necessarily helping you to um, that aren't necessarily healthy, but they're unhealthy.
mm.
But regardless, it's your choice.
Right.
And so I think people don't realize that they have a choice.
Right. Right.
But, you know, I think society will give you options,
Mm,
but we don't necessarily think on our own on what other options that are out there.
mm.
So yeah, that's just, something that I was, man, again, um, I think one of the biggest things that we could do is just ask the question.
Right. Right.
Don't
And
just settle for an answer.
mm,
Be curious enough to find out for yourself. So,
I think that's a great point because uh, something that I've learned within the last couple of years is like practicing asking better questions. Because when it comes to trauma or pain, sometimes I think I heard someone say it's that people sometimes they wonder why people are addicted to what they're addicted to. And he's like, that's the wrong question. Like the question should be like the addiction is doing something positive for that person, otherwise they wouldn't practice it. So it's like what pain is the addiction curing, or what pain is it addressing? And actually understanding or looking at what the pain is might be an answer to what other avenues you have to actually treat it, and not feel like you constantly have to just reach for compulsion in order to like, okay, this hurts. I just gotta do something to get rid of the hurt, and not looking at, okay, why does this hurt? If it's interesting when like you're trying to think of this correctly. Like if you're had I've had lower back pain from time to time, like throughout high school, either is like due to football or wrestling, and it was like a spasm or something like that. I had an MRI done. It's like, oh, there's nothing wrong with it, but like you feel the pain. And
Yeah.
then more recently, I think I've learned that if you have lower back pain, it has to do with like you have a weak glutes, or you have weak yeah, that's essentially what it is. You have weak glutes.
Yeah.
So
Glutes,
like if
glutes
you're
are weak,
not
and lower, your lower back muscles are
mhm,
probably weak too, and not a strong core.
right, right. And it's like seeing that I'm like, yeah, my core isn't that strong, and it's like I don't have a six pack per se, but even in targeting those areas and getting back into the gym and working out. And it's like the simplest thing of just when you do a squat and you're in the standing position, or you come up out of the squat, it was saying that just flexing, like flexing your, I don't know if I'd say flexing your butt cheeks, but basically engaging your glutes into your back. It's almost like you're doing the exercise and you're getting it to the extent like
Hmm.
maybe you don't want to lock your knees out, but at least you want to clench your butt or flex to where it's like the muscles that go from your quads go through your butt and then into your back muscles. So then it's like
Yeah,
tying everything together. And I was like,
absolutely.
that makes so much sense, and it's so much simpler. And it's like if your knees feel bad, you can walk backwards, or you can build up your quads, your
Mhm.
hamstrings, your yeah, basically all the muscle around your knees, because like there are no muscles in your joints. So
Yeah.
getting everything else stronger around you makes it that much more bulletproof, to where it's like, oh, okay, like I can actually feel like I can run now, or I can do this because I've built the foundation and everything else around it. And I
Hmm.
think that's pretty neat, just seeing what you can do with your body, and then how that can translate into how you can work on your mind, and then your emotions, and your like your finances, your spirituality, and just have like be a holistic person and not be like a lesser version of yourself.
Yeah. Facts, man. True. True, man. True, true, man.
Awesome. So I guess what's 2024 been like for you as we're wrapping up the year and basically looking to go into the holidays?
I'm dating this young lady. You know, it's crazy that I got this job.
Hmm.
I'm dating this young lady now, and it's going extremely well. And so so closing out this year with, just happiness, man. Yeah, just thankful and happy, man, and blessed, man. So that's that would be it right there, man. And just thankful. Thankful,
That's
happy,
awesome.
and blessed, man.
I like that.
Looking forward to the retreat. You going to the retreat?
No, I won't be there this year. I'll be at hanging out with a few guys from college, going to the Tech Miami game. Try to see what
Ah,
our school is gonna do. But it's been, I think maybe we've done it 3 years in a row now, and getting together with the guys, like not just group chatting, but being able to engage, go back to our school. It's been
hmm.
over 10 years
No.
now once we graduated college, and now you look at it. I think the last time we were there, we walked around and we saw that the school's been renovated, and you like you start to think differently the older you get, and you're like, okay, like most of them, they all have their kids are younger, but they're starting to come up.
Hmm.
um And it's like you start thinking, it's like, man, I could see my kids coming here, and that could be that could be something like the pain of when you went to the school to where it's like, man, you just feel like you're in a bad relationship, you're being
Mm,
mistreated. And it's like, okay, maybe I've had some time and distance, and I see now what I learned here, how it translated to not only get me a job, but in the real world where you see how life isn't just like handed to you. It's not just like, oh, it's okay, you messed up. No, no, don't worry. Like
mm,
no consequences, no nothing. And it's like, no, it is a good return on your investment. Like you got more here. And it's like I could I can see why like the alumni pour in and why it continues to be the school that it is because it's I think it's focused on the right things. But
mm.
we'll see where the game goes. It's like
Yeah,
fingers crossed, but
yeah, it's Miami, bro.
yeah,
Miami, they on a nice little tear.
yeah. I don't know if they won yesterday or what happened there, but they probably come marching up to Atlanta ready to put in some work.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff.
And
Good, man.
how can people get in touch with you if they want to keep following your journey or just learn more about you?
Yeah, you can get on my Instagram page is Mental Trailblazer. You know, I'm on Instagram there, and then Facebook, man, Royce L. Jones there.
Mm,
Um, yeah, you can follow me there. I'm on Psychology Today,
mm,
Royce L. Jones, if you're needing services. So, yeah, that's how you can reach me.
awesome. And from the first question I asked you, are you still who you said you were?
I'm evolving, man.
Mm,
I'm still that person, but I'm becoming a better version of that.
I like it. Thank you so much for your time today, Royce, man. This was fun.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
Like, you're very welcome.